Welcome, beautiful soul. This is the Womanhood Project, and I'm your host, Lizzie Morris. If you can't tell that we have a total rebrand. If you are new, you only know this as the Womanhood Project, but if you have been here a while, you know that this used to be called the Plus Size Woman's Advocate Podcast. Now, I still classify myself as the Plus Size Woman's Advocate, but I actually came up with the Womanhood Project almost 2 years ago. It was shortly after I had my second born child, and I had the Instagram account, I had things sitting there, and I didn't really do anything with it. And so we'll be doing more episodes on like this whole rebrand and all of that. And actually, the next episode we're going to be doing is going to be like going over my biases and like a lot of the things that I believe in, just so you can get more of a sense of like who I am now, what you can expect as we go into season 3. So this is not the launch of season 3 yet. As we launch season 3, there will be a lot more like interesting, juicy episodes, but I wanted to take the time during Cesarean Awareness Month to do this episode and talk about some things. And my first thought was, okay, like, what do I think that we should bring awareness to? Because this is going to be very different for everyone. This is why I'm excited to do my biases episode, because when you come here, you're not going to, there's no way for me to give all sides of the coin all the time, every single episode, right? And so there are people that are bringing awareness to, the recovery of a C-section. Like, that's all they're talking about. And that deserves its own awareness, right? There are people that are bringing awareness to reasons they had their C-sections, whether it be like placental abruption, things. We'll get into that into this episode. But I want to talk about what I think, or what I'm going to be bringing awareness to in this episode, because I have my own reasons and things that when I think of a cesarean for myself, because I am a cesarean mom, that I think deserve a huge awareness to, especially with the crises that we're having in maternal health currently. So what I want to bring awareness to, and what I'm going to talk about in this episode, I want to frame it in a way that if you relate, maybe this is an episode that you could share with somebody that simply, like someone you love that just hasn't really understood what the cesarean experience was like for you. And you just feel like there's really a lack of disconnect with it. And maybe it's like a partner or a mother or a best friend. And, maybe they have empathy, but they're like, I just don't get it. Like, everyone delivers by cesarean, or like I know so many people that have been through it, and I just really struggle to understand like what it is that was so hard for you to go through. And so that's kind of the lens that I'm going to be sharing this through, is that I did not enjoy my cesarean. My cesarean was not wanted. My cesarean was not, in my opinion, needed. And that is the case, in my humble, biased opinion, for many, many women. And so, like, when I Google the definition, it actually says surgical delivery of a baby usually performed when vaginal delivery poses a risk to the mother or the baby. Now, this is what cesarean was originally, like, created for. It was created to be a surgical delivery that was performed when it was an emergency. Like, hey, we can't wait for your cervix to dilate. This baby's got to get out now. Like, this baby has got to be born for the health of either mom or baby. It was meant for those extreme circumstances. Women were not going into surgery to give birth simply out of convenience in XYZ. And I want to claim that I'm not saying that if that's a woman's choice, that's wrong. I'm simply stating the facts, right? And so we'll go over some facts about cesareans. I'm not going to get into like every single fact out there. Like, you could go find, so many people have posted graphics and things talking about the risks, the benefits, whatever. And again, I'm going through the lens of my own experiences, but also I'm giving factual evidence, right? So First off, if you guys didn't know, cesareans were actually, from what we do know, from the evidence and from the history and the findings and writings from different people throughout history, that African midwives were the first to actually perform cesareans where mom and baby were surviving, basically. Like, they were the first to actually do cesareans and accomplish the survival of mother and baby, and like everything turned out fine. And actually the findings showed that the healing process was very quick. Mothers didn't show much, like, any distress really during the procedures, but they kind of took these doctors that witnessed these African midwives performing these cesareans, kind of took it and ran with it, and didn't really know exactly what they were doing. And obviously over time, we can see that cesareans now are performed, despite the overuse of them, they are probably the safest that they ever have been, right? So on average in America, I'll give a few stats of like different places in the world, but on average, about 32% of births are via cesarean. Now, this was the last stat, I think, given in 2018 or 2020. Honestly, many people theorize that the stats are much closer to like 40%, maybe even higher. And in some places they are like statistically shown to be higher, like closer to 50 or 75%, depending on, they say like the population that they're attending to. Now, Australia, their cesarean percentage is at 38% of births right now. So they're already shown to be higher than the United States. The UK is showing closer to 50%. I did not know this. But yeah, they're showing closer to 50%, which is insane. Brazil is close to like 80 or 90%. I actually did know that. They are probably one of the highest in the world. And organizations like ACOG, which is the American College of Gynecology and Obstetrics, and like the World Health Organization and whatnot, they say that a healthy percentage for cesarean sections would be more like 10 to 15% of births. Now, I would even argue, like, physiologically, it's more like 2 to 5% that would actually seriously require cesarean. And I'm not a doctor, so, this is not medical jargon talk on my end. I'm just giving my thoughts here, right? So I believe, so obviously we're cesareans have increased over like 500 or 600% over the last couple decades. And this is not at the fault of birth. So like, why are cesareans being done so often? Why did cesareans have such an increase, not just in the last couple of decades, but really like all over the world? It wasn't even just like the USA, because when I first got into this, I really thought like, oh, America really just has it wrong. But as you can see, the UK and all these other places are also having this crisis. I call it a crisis. We have a cesarean crisis right now. And there are lots of reasons, but number one is culture. And I want to kind of go into this more. And I'm going to say a few times, and then I'm going to try not to do it often, because we live in a society where it's like, oh, are you a doctor? Do you have a philosophy degree? Did you go to blah, 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 blah? And I hate it so much, but it's like still so in my subconscious that I'm like, listen, I'm not saying I'm a philosopher and I know all this about culture and stuff, but I'm just going to, so I'm just saying, it's not that I think I know what I'm talking about. I'm just going to talk about what I think I want to talk about. I like to think I'm very intelligent, but who knows? So culture is the key factor. It's not that Brazilian women have extremely small pelvises. That is not why their cesarean rates are nearing 100%, and in many places are 100%. That it's not a physiological, and when I say physiological, I mean like a bodily function. It's not that the reason cesarean rates are so, I mean, obviously on the rise, but still kind of drastically different depending on the country, location. It happens within the United States as well, depending on the city, depending on the hospital, depending on the county. There are variabilities and nuances like, access to the actual healthcare and blah, blah, blah. The big problem is culture. Okay. And we could pick this apart all day, and we will definitely, I want you to know, send this to your birth nerd besties, the people that love diving into like the culture and debunking this patriarchal bullshit. We will be cussing a lot on the podcast, by the way. But because we will be going through and picking apart all of these things as time goes on. But what I mean by culture is that a lot of the things that are happening in labor and delivery, not just in America, but throughout the entire world, first world countries, third world countries, whatever in between, are not in support of the natural safety that labor, that the progression of labor can actually unfold as. I don't know if that sentence made sense the way I was thinking, but the way we treat birth in the hospital, the way we treat birth even in home births with midwives, the way that we view women pregnant, all of this cultural shit. Think about when you watch a movie. I want you to think, when you watch a movie and there's a pregnant woman or a woman and what happens? Her water breaks. I remember the most prominent scene of like my childhood that makes sense to me because I've always been interested in birth. I've seen this looking back at my life. I always liked seeing, pregnancy in movies. I always liked seeing birth scenes, and not because of the drama of it. There was just this fascination with childbirth and pregnancy. There was always something there. I actually said I wanted to be an OBGYN when I was like 12 years old. I knew I wanted to help women. I was just on the wrong side of history at that moment. So this movie, Look Who's Talking. I don't know if you guys have ever seen it. It's from like the 80s. It's got John Travolta and Kirstie Alley, I think's her name. And it's just, they have two movies. And in the first, Kirstie Alley, she's like just super pregnant, and she's like in New York City, and just out of nowhere her water breaks, and she just goes into full-blown labor. And it's like, she's a first-time pregnant woman, okay? And not that this can't be a thing, but like, let's be real. She goes into like, oh my gosh, I know the word. Not prodromal labor. Oh my gosh. Oh, this is going to kill me. Basically, really fast labor. Oh my gosh, there's a word. And I'm just going to move on because I'll keep saying OMG about 100 times. But a really accelerated labor. So she just basically, contractions start, and she's just screaming the whole time. And this is how she meets John Travolta, right? He pulls up on the scene. He's a cab driver, and there's all this traffic, and they're driving through New York to go to the hospital, and he's driving through construction and over potholes and like breaking the law and doing all this. Like, it's Hollywood. It's so Hollywood. Actually, my second birth was so Hollywood. We will go through that again one day. So Hollywood, okay? This is not actual birth. Like, yes, these are scenes that happen in reality, probably because we watch this crap on TV. But then she gets to the hospital, and it's like they throw her on a table and she's screaming. Well, no, they throw her in a wheelchair. She's screaming in the wheelchair the whole way through the hallway. They get her on a bed. She's screaming on the bed. And then they're telling her to push. And then, like, she pushes the baby out. And it's just this whole thing. It is a whole thing. And we don't just see that in that movie. It's the same scene in any movie with the pregnant woman. Like, for real. It's always the same thing. And actually, you really don't see C-sections happen in movies, which is, not as often to me, ironically. You see a lot of, like, screaming women in wheelchairs being told to push. And they just look like they're dying. And listen, I have given birth unmedicated vaginally. I went through a C-section, and it's just the portrayal of drama. And I get it, it's Hollywood. Here's the thing about culture. A lot of our culture comes from from these types of things. It comes from the music we listen to. It comes from the movies we're watching. It comes from the TV shows. It comes from the conversations we're having, the dramatization that we even do when we storytell. I mean, come on, when we recollect stories, how often do we like add a little spice to it? And not even purposefully. It's not like even it's an intentional thing. It just, when you recall a memory or you recall something and you retell something, you're retelling the memory of it. And so it's this constant just dramatization in our heads, this constant reminder that birth is drama. It is a cultural thing, okay? And this explains one of the literally the tippy top reason. Do you want to know? Take a guess. I'm gonna give you a moment to take a guess. What do you think the top reason for cesarean section is at the current moment? What do you think? Do 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 do. Failure to progress. Now I want to give you a big secret. I'm going to give you a huge secret. A lot of people will use the term, as we said before. What did Google or whatever give me the definition for cesarean section? Surgical delivery of a baby, usually performed when vaginal delivery poses a risk to the mother and baby. And so there is this conversation that comes up often. It's a conversation I don't even freaking want to have. We're not going to have the full combo at the moment because it's so annoying. But there's this conversation continually had that, oh, women used to just die all the time in childbirth. And let me let you understand that, first of all, the women that were dying in childbirth, it was not because of failure to progress. There were cases of rickets where women, or people in general, but obviously men weren't giving birth. So where malnutrition was, on the rise, and their pelvises, yes, in those parts of history, because of malnutrition, they had issues, having childbirth. That is not a physiological issue that continues on in the birth and the way humanity has evolved, right? That was a centralized problem in a point of history. Okay, so there's this idea, our pelvises are too small and we can't birth our babies. It was not, that wasn't the same as what we call failure to progress today. Okay. Most of the deaths back in the day were lack of hygiene, infections. Doctors were going from the morgue up into labor and delivery and sticking their hands in women. We didn't have antibiotics. A lot of the basic things are actually what have saved women in childbirth. It actually isn't the life-saving things haven't been the biggest ultimate difference in childbirth. They've made a difference. We're very grateful for that, but it's been more of which antibiotics is a big deal, but you know what I'm saying? It's like hand washing. It's a proper nutrition, things like that have actually made a really, really big difference in how we're able to birth safely now. It's actually not cesarean section hasn't been the ultimate, although it has been a big deal. So right now what we're dealing with is failure to progress. Now, what is failure to progress? I could go Google. I know this definition, but I'm going to see if Google, or I'm actually on Bing. What is failure to progress in labor? Let's see what they say. Failure to progress in labor can happen when the cervix does not thin and open as it should, the baby's head does not engage with the mother's pelvis, there are differences between the size of the baby's head and the mother's pelvis, labor slows and delays delivery of the baby, contractions are not sufficiently strong or frequent to push the baby out. The term is generally used to describe a labor that has continued beyond 20 hours for first-time mothers or beyond 14 hours for a mother that has given birth before. So that is the definition and here's another definition right next to it, okay? This is actually more just this is a good general one. Failure to progress refers to when labor is not developing at a satisfactory rate. This increases the risk to the fetus and mother. And I would call bullshit on that, but let's talk about it. So there are other reasons for cesarean section. Let's blow through those real quick, because the top reason for cesarean section alone, again, something I'm wanting to bring major awareness to just show that this is not something that is happening out of good faith for mothers and babies. So some other top reasons for cesareans being done are like obvious medical indications like placental abruption or placenta previa, cord prolapse, and some more controversial ones, again, things we'll be getting into on the podcast, fetal distress and breech. And going back to the failure to progress and why I brought this up in the first place, and is the culture, right? That the top reason that a third of babies at the moment, probably again closer to 40% of babies being born via cesarean, 40% of mothers going through, in some places, going through major abdominal surgery, having to go home and take care of like 2, 3, 4 other children while recovering from a major abdominal surgery, while taking care of a newborn. Like the reason, a big reason that this all starts with the first C-section is this failure to progress. And why is this failure to progress such a thing? This, again, culture. And so we live in this capitalistic society that runs on businesses, aka the hospital, emptying labor beds. Everything needs to be faster. We always want to speed up labor. There's all of this like go, 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 go. There's never, let's take time to rest. Let's give the body time to do exactly what it's meant to do, right? Failure to progress is based on somebody deciding with their fingers, okay? Anybody. Think of the bias and the differentiation between any given person on that shift that day in the country, in the world. This is all going to change your labor, or the situation, how it unfolds can literally depend on this person's fingers going inside of you and saying, your cervix, your uterus, this organ is not doing, which it's most of the time doing exactly what it's supposed to do, exactly what it's meant to do, even if it's not doing it to their liking. What did that one definition says? Baby, turn your volume down. It says failure to progress refers to when labor is not developing at a satisfactory rate. Oh. Okay, that is a really clear-cut definition, and that is a cultural thing. It is, hey, I have to go home and my kids have soccer practice tonight, or like, I'm tired. I've been on shift for XYZ. I mean, it's terrible, and it doesn't make it okay, but these are the contributing leading factors to why women are delivering at such high rates on an operating table. It is culture, and we will dive more into that in this podcast again as time goes on. But I really wanted to bring awareness to that, and I encourage any of you, even if your reason for cesarean section was absolutely needed, even if the people you know, I mean, it all at the end of the day is based on how you feel and how confident you feel that was needed, and whatever. You know, I'm not the one to tell you, was it needed, was it not? But I really challenge people to explore this cultural definition, or this cultural understanding of why birth is the way it is, and why we are delivering our babies the way we are under arbitrary timelines, and being told our bodies have failed. Women are being told at an astronomically high rate that their bodies are broken and that they have failed. And that doesn't mean cesarean. No, my body's not broken, baby.
Why? Their bodies were broken.
No, their bodies did everything that they had to do.
Yeah.
It's just sometimes things work out differently.
I mean, it's like my Roblox game from... Wow.
Y'all get to enjoy these conversations. It's so hard to try to figure out how to explain things to toddlers. Like, I don't even know. Obviously, you guys saw, like, how do you even say that? I don't know how to fully explain. But I know it's not okay, despite if someone's had a placental abruption, you don't tell them, oh my gosh, your body failed. Like, no. Things happen. That doesn't, I mean, this failure to progress, failure to descend, failure, there's so many other, oh my gosh, definitions I can't even think of right now. But to understand that we are giving this subconscious programming to women is deafening. It's disgusting, and it's not okay. And that's what I want to bring awareness to today. So the next thing I want to talk about real quick, I went on Facebook, and I went into the VBAC Link Facebook group, and I asked moms. This is a Facebook group. Everyone in here has had a C-section. Okay, even if they don't go on to have a VBAC, because that's not what this episode's about. This episode is strictly about like cesarean awareness, not VBAC awareness or anything like that. But we could totally do a VBAC awareness episode. But I asked the moms. I said, like, what do you wish people knew about cesareans? Like, what do you wish you could bring more awareness to around Cesarean Awareness Month? And what do you wish to share about your experience? Now, that post had like over 100 something comments. So obviously I cannot share all 100 comments on this podcast. But after the post was up for like 24 hours, there was many comments that had like, you know, over 20 plus reactions, lots of responses. And so when I was preparing for this episode, I wanted to take some of the very top comments, and there's a lot. I'm gonna go through maybe like, I don't know, 10 type comments ish, and these are the ones I also really resonated with. There was plenty. No, baby, our bodies are not broken, baby.
Oh no.
Yeah, that's not. But listen, I gotta finish this and then we'll hang out. Okay, turn that volume down and then I'll be done. I'm almost done. So again, sharing from my bias, these are the ones that I really resonated with, and yeah, these are just the comments that came from women that have had cesareans, and I thought, what better way to bring awareness during Cesarean Awareness Month than to hear from women themselves, right? Someone said how you're made to feel like a prisoner with your hands pinned down as you watch birth happen to you. I totally resonate with that one. That C-sections are not the easy way out. Speaking from my personal experience, number one, it isn't the only option for safe breech delivery. I wish I knew that then. Number two, it may impede bonding with the baby. Compared to my VBAC, I had a much harder time. And number three, once a cesarean, not necessarily always a cesarean. Another comment, in no way is it the easy route. Sometimes it is the only way. Choosing a C-section doesn't make you a bad mom. Recovery can take months. I felt useless for hours. I was jealous of mothers who gave birth vaginally. That lasting feeling that your body failed, in quotations. I felt guilty for not, quote, giving birth. I realized I still gave birth. Someone else said how emotionally devastating it can feel to have one when that was never in the plan. That it's a major abdominal surgery and should be treated as such. They cut through multiple layers that cause permanent loss of feeling that is anything but easy. And that you have a higher risk of developing postpartum depression, that it can be traumatic to the point of needing help. And the last one, I really, really felt. I wish we were allowed to mourn how a moment as emotional and tender as birth happened in a cold, sterile environment where we weren't often able to hold our babies right away. Instead, we're told how we're warriors, as though warriors also can't grieve. And that last sentence really got me. We're told how we're warriors, as though warriors can't also grieve. there's a lot of like, in my closing thoughts, I have other notes, like, I was going to talk about mother-led cesareans and ICAN chapters and stuff, but I want to say on a double-edged sword that while people look at us like we're warriors, there's also this underhanded pity. And I get it. And not that pity is okay. But a lot of people will be like, oh, I can never go through a C-section. You know what's so funny? Is that I said that for years. I said it for years and years before having my first, my son that's in here now. All my friends had C-sections, like everyone around me at the time was having C-sections. I was like, dude, I would never have a C-section. Like, and not that I even thought that there was anything. A lot of the people I knew actually had C-sections for like legit medical reasons, like literally placental abruption prematurely and stuff like that, you know. And I didn't pity them, but I definitely saw it as like, I feel like I hate to feel like they might have missed out on that. And it's really not our place to presumptively, am I saying that right? Feel bad for other people's births without knowing the full story. You know, without knowing how they feel first. But obviously you can see that there's cases where in vaginal births too, mothers have things that grievances and things that they have to say. I will say my vaginal experience with my second born, definitely, it wasn't actually the birth, it was the people that traumatized me more. But cesarean definitely isn't an easy way out. And there's no reason to pity people that had cesareans. But there is a reason to listen to them when they tell you their experience. And there is a reason that when someone tells you that this form of delivery for our babies is causing more harm than good in the masses, that we also as cesarean mothers can't take that personal. We have to understand that there could be two things true at one time. There can be truth in that, like, maybe you were cesarean, or there are people cesareans that were absolutely life-saving, transformational, necessary, wanted, needed. It doesn't, if a woman wants to schedule cesareans over, girl, go for it. But there are women that don't. There are lots and lots of women who don't and feel as if they have literally no choice. And a lot of times are coerced and manipulated and failed by the medical system in the first place. It's not that their body failed, it's that the people around them failed. So that is my take on Cesarean Awareness Month. If you have anything you'd like to add for Cesarean Awareness Month, feel free to screenshot this episode, share on your social medias. You can tag me at the Lizzie Morris. It's Lizzie with a Y, so TheLizzymorris. Let me know your thoughts. You can DM me on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. All my social media handles will be linked in the show notes. Feel free to check it out. Make sure you have subscribed to the channel. Make sure you download the episodes or whatever. I don't even know all the cool terminology, you guys. I will say, just to give you a quick update, I think I talked about it a little bit in the intro, but I will be doing one more episode. It will be in the following, before May, on my biases, and I definitely recommend you checking that out, because that might let you know if you want to stick around or tune out. And if I'm not your cup of tea, I would not be offended. I would be totally okay if you leave the podcast, but if I am totally up your alley, it would be awesome if you listen to that episode to further stay. So that episode will be coming out, and then that will be the launch of season 3 after that. So then we will go in full launch of season 3. We'll be having episodes every single week. I'm very excited. We'll be having guests on. We'll be having series, and my son is going nuts now, and I don't want to have to do much editing, so I'm going to end the episode here. But I hope you enjoyed. Again, feel free to screenshot and share, send to a friend if you know somebody in your life that just really doesn't get it, but they're open to trying to understand where you're coming from. But maybe you struggle to find the words to say. Maybe you struggle to have these emotionally charged conversations with the people you love, because it is hard to talk about our cesarean experience sometimes. It is hard to talk about birth and these important days in our motherhood. So feel free to send it to somebody that you love, and give the show a 5-star review. I'd love it. I want to start giving like shout outs on the episodes for our reviews, like review of the week or something, you know what I mean? Like new reviews. So go leave a review. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you're looking forward to. Let me know your thoughts on today's episode, and I will see you in the next show. Love you guys. Bye.